With that, can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Jennifer Whitman.
Here.
Vice Chairman Joshua Ayler.
Here.
Commissioner David Blazer.
Here.
Commissioner Carl Bloomfield.
Here.
Commissioner David Cavaney.
Here.
Commissioner Bridget Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Christopher Sipple.
Present.
Alternate Kyle Paul.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, which is approval of the agenda. Vice Chairman?
I have no modifications.
Okay, I think we do have one card to speak on one item, but for now, I think we can just leave it on consent and hear from that resident who wishes to speak on the matter. Or do we need, does legal counsel concur?
It's on the public hearing consent, so you just have to open the public hearing to
Okay.
take the comment.
Will do. Thank you. So with that, Vice Chairman?
Okay. I'd like to move to approve the agenda for tonight with no modifications.
Okay, I have a motion by Vice Chairman Ayler. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a second by Commissioner Sipple. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 4, communications from citizens. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters not on the agenda. The Commission's response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. And is there anybody here wishing to speak under those circumstances? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the public hearing consent portion of the agenda. The consent public hearing items will be heard at one public hearing. After the consent public hearing, these items may be approved by a single motion. At the request of a member of the commission or staff, an item may be removed from the consent calendar and may be heard and acted upon separately. Other items on the agenda may be added to the consent public hearing and approved under a single motion. The items tonight that are on the consent public hearing are agenda item number 5, which is UP 1403. It's a conditional use permit for a secondary dwelling unit in a single-family 35 zoning category. We have agenda item number 6, which is Z14-09. It's a request for approximately 13 acres of property located at the northeast corner of Higley and Houston to rezone from SF35 to SF10. Agenda item number 7, which is S14-04. It's a request to approve a preliminary plat and open space plan for a subdivision located at Houston and Higley at the northeast corner. And sorry about that. Agenda item number 8, which is Z14-12. It's a request to amend the conditions for the development plan in the legacy planned area development, and that's located at the southwest corner of Greenfield and Brooks Farm Roads. And so with that, we do have one card on one of the items, so we'll go ahead and open the public hearing, and that's for case Z, or case number, agenda item number 7, case S14-04. And I'd like to, before we ask staff to make a presentation, maybe see and hear from James Smith, who said he wishes to speak on this item. Okay. Oh, so you want to hear the presentations from staff? Okay. Did you have an opportunity to pick up the packet in the back? I think is there a staff report back there for the case? That might help a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and invite staff up to give an overview of the request. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will give a brief review of the application. This corresponds to a rezoning and a preliminary plat. The applicant is anxious to proceed with the final plat and be able to submit standard plans for review. So staff doesn't have any objection with it. And of course, the preliminary plat will be subject to approval of the rezoning by the town council. This is an existing infrastructure and final plat in place that was, during the time of the recession, was halfway completed. And this applicant is coming to give life to this project. And the proposal is for a single family 10. That means a minimum sizes of lots being 10,000 square feet. However, they far exceed though that minimum size, and they are between 16 and 19,000 square feet lots. The only reason why the applicant is requesting a PAD is to deviate from two items. Those are the width of the lots on 6 of the lots, the ones that are to the east of the open space, and that is with the intent of lining up the existing infrastructure with a new lots layout. The second deviation from the standards of the SF10 will be the side setback for the entry lot 20, where they will observe the increased setback of 15 feet for being abutting an arterial street, but on the other side, instead of 10, they request 9. Same reason, to line up with the stops of the water lines and sewer lines that are already in place. There's no deviations on the footprints, percentages, and there's no pending issues in the engineering. Engineering has accepted the design that they propose. If you read in the subdivision, there is a condition to increase by 2 trees, the required number of trees along the arterial Higley, and 2 more on each side of the entrances. And that is because, when during the time when this had no activity, they might have died. The applicant agrees to show those in the construction documents. Staff doesn't have any pending issues, and we're excited that this is coming back to life. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there any questions for staff? Commissioner Peterson?
Maria, last month we talked about a portion of the fence that was 6 foot, and we talked about the difference changing it. And did we get that settled? I just wanted to...
Correct. Madam Chair, Commissioner Peterson, the applicant gave us information that there's no segment of the chain link fence that abuts this site with a residential either to the east or to the northeast. Whatever portion of chain link fence may be between the commercial and portion of the residential to the northeast. So they clarified that, so we didn't bring it up as an pending issue because it's a non-issue.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Cavity?
Just reiterate for me the issue that about the number of stories and where they are allowed to be 2-story and where they are not allowed to be 2-story.
Land Development Code requires that any dwelling units built abutting a land that is non-residential be built with single-story homes. The applicant is requesting to deviate from this, but in gaining, what the town gains is that they will maintain the rear setback of 40 feet of the current zoning designation, which is SF35. So instead of having 30 feet to the rear, or they will have 40, the current. So that's what we gain. More distance. What we have seen so far, what is going to happen on the commercial land to the north, we already reviewed at pre-app level an assisted care facility that the building itself is over 100 feet from the property line. So what it will be developed, if that use comes forward, and we hope so, is a big retention open space, outdoor spaces for the facility. So we explain in the report that we support it based on a real project that is coming up and is waiting for the processing of the commercial preliminary plat before they can submit design review board plans.
Okay. And I understand that there was a concern with two-story homes being placed on, was it lot 11 and 10, because they abut an existing single-family lot.
Correct.
Are there restrictions on that at all, or no?
I think the condition reads that they can build the 2 stories on lots 1 through 9.
Okay. That's what I thought I read. I can't find it now, but yeah.
They may build 2-story homes on lots 1 through 9.
Okay.
Because that was one of the concerns that we received at the neighborhood meeting.
So those are the only lots that can be two-story, are 1 through 9?
Well, correct, that they could build abutting the commercial. They could build in any other place.
Oh,
They
okay.
would like to. But in the ones that have restriction by code, will be 1 through 9, and we expect that the number 10 be a single story because we felt that that was a desire of the neighborhood when this project was presented to them at the neighborhood meeting.
Okay, so that is a stipulation that 10 and 11 will not be
No.
Just
higher
10.
than single-story?
Just
10.
1 through 9.
Just 10?
Isn't it just 10?
Not 11?
Correct.
Okay, okay. Why, can I ask why that was the stipulation, since it abuts the same property?
Because the code does not restrict 2 stories next to another residential. It restricts when the lots are backing onto non-residential
Understood, yeah.
land use
Okay.
designation. So by code, they're permitted.
Okay. I guess I'm asking, why was Lot 10 prohibited from being a 2-story and Lot 11 was not? Because it's the same property they abut.
Correct. But it wasn't permitted, or we did not consider, because that by code, they should build it a single story.
Okay.
Right.
So it's not necessarily an adjacent neighbor issue, it's a code issue
Yes.
that they're bringing up. Even though she said that originally 10, they thought would be better suited for single family or single story because of the adjacent land.
Adjacent to residential, and we could put that restriction there because to meet code.
And I was looking for an aerial in our packet to see what was on the adjacent parcel, but I don't see one.
On the adjacent parcel to the east,
Yes.
no, I don't have an aerial.
I know it's
think,
residential, I just
but,
didn't know what was
There is a
developed.
residential house with a residential lot with an orchard of citruses all along the western boundary of the lot.
Citrus along the western boundary?
Yes.
Okay.
It's an orchard, very line up, all of
Okay.
them, if you open up the aerial map.
Madam Chair,
Oh,
can
it
I
looks
ask-
like-
Can I ask staff a question, please?
Certainly.
Just because I'm trying to interpret Commissioner Cavaney's question. Maria, can you please clarify, with the condition that's in the staff report now, it does note that a 2-story could be built on lots 1 through 9 when adjacent to regional commercial. Was lot number 10 intended to be excluded so that it can only be developed as a 1-story?
Correct.
Okay, and that was because of input from the neighbor?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to
That we
clarify
could-
that for Commission.
Okay, and so if that is the reason, then, I don't understand why 11 doesn't have a similar stipulation, since it abuts the same homeowner's property.
So what we are saying, what the staff is saying, Commissioner Cavaney, is that Lot 10, because of the proximity to the residential, we prefer that they maintain the provision of the code to be a single story because they are backing onto non-residential.
Okay, and yet 11 is the same distance from that property. So if
Well,
it is distance, I don't get it.
I think it's the location of the home, the existing home on the lot. Once I looked at the aerial, it looks like the home is placed further back and adjacent or closer to lot 10 than it is lot 11. And with the orchards along the west side, it looks like that's maybe the reason why, that there's some sort of buffer there.
Now, I'm not sure that's the case.
I just looked at the aerial off
have
the
it?
Google Maps.
Here, pass that down.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Maria, if I can speak to Maria.
Yes.
Maria, it sounds like from the code, they are allowed to have 2-story homes on all of the lots
Correct.
by code, except for lots 1 through 10 because it backs up to
Correct.
neighborhood commercial.
Exactly right.
And so you removed that restriction from lots 1 through 9 so that they could continue to have 2-story, but 10, because it backs up to neighborhood commercial, cannot have it. It has to be a single story. I think what Commissioner Cavaney is saying, probably from a conversation with a neighbor or having heard neighborhood meeting minutes or something, is saying probably is desirable to have 11 have a similar restriction, and maybe do that by stipulation. That's the only way we could do it at this point, because by right, they have the ability to put a 2-story there.
Madam Chair, Commissioner
Does that
Bloomfield,
clarify?
you are very right in that interpretation or explanation you just gave.
Yeah, just looking at the aerial, that home is nearly in the middle, and the trees that appear to be blocking the view are low-rise citrus trees. They're not high-rise trees. So I don't think there's a distinction between 11 and 10. That's just from knowing that property a little bit, so.
Any further questions for staff? Okay. With that, Mr. James Smith, would you like to come up? Reserve comment for the applicant after.
Madam Commissioner, fellow
If you could give your name and city of residence for the record.
James Smith,
There we go.
James Smith, 3374 East Houston Avenue, Gilbert, Arizona, 85234. I am the homeowner on the adjacent property to the east.
Oh, great.
And I understand the code and what the town has and what is available and what the applicant is making an exception for. I would just desire that the applicant consider having a single story immediately adjacent to our property. I was in favor of this development when it first came in as acre lots, and you can review the record and see that that was the case. Now, of course, that you're going to go to a higher density, you'll have homes that will be closer to the property where I am. And so a 2-story home would be looking into my backyard much more so than it would if it were a single family. And if they can certainly make a change so that 2-story can be on the adjacent property, which is not according to code, they could certainly make an exception to try to make it single family next to my property to preserve the integrity of my property.
So let me see if I understand you. Are you okay with the proposal as is with lot 10 being single story? Or are you asking
11.
10 and 11?
That's what I would request.
Okay. And can you give me maybe a little bit of insight on your western boundary, what's existing there today?
Right now, my home is almost just a little bit north of dead center of where the property is.
Okay.
And my home sits back quite a ways from the property line. I do have an orchard with trees adjacent to the concrete wall that separates the property to the west of me.
Okay.
But those are citrus trees that don't get more than about 15, 20 feet high.
Okay. And did you previously have a conversation with the applicant regarding the single story?
I did.
For both of these lots?
They do that on both lots, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there any further questions for the neighbor, Mr. Smith?
I've also lived in the home for 18 years.
Awesome. We appreciate you coming down here. All right, we thank you very much. With that, we'll invite up the applicant, Mr. Lake. Give your name and city of residence for the record.
Sean Lake, 1744 South Val Vista Drive in Mesa, Arizona. Appreciate the opportunity to be before you this evening. This is an outstanding project. Those who have driven by it and driven through it, I mean, it is first class. It's going to continue to be a first class project. We're really excited about this project and what it's going to go in here. Specifically addressing the single story, you are correct on lot 10. We did reserve that for a single story because we felt that was back towards where his house was more on that. There we go. On lot 10, we did reserve 10 because we felt that was back towards where his home kind of starts in the middle and on the north side, which would be more adjacent to 10. 11, we would prefer to be single-story. I'm not going to fall on my sword over it. We think the market should dictate it, but if this commission deems that's where they want to go, that will be acceptable to that, but we would obviously would prefer to have the market dictate that on lot 11. But 10, we agree, is single-story only. Absolutely.
So 11, you prefer flexibility, but would...
But if this commission deems that we need to have single-story, we'll do whatever the commission decides.
Okay. Any, back to acre lots, I don't think that's an option. One of the commissioners recommended going back to acre lots. You said whatever we want, so I think he was just throwing it out there for you. You have to be a little more specific, I guess. So, all right, is there any questions for the applicant? All right, thank you, Mr. Lake. Does staff have anything further they'd like to add? Okay. With that, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the dais for comment, discussion. Vice Chairman?
With comments coming in from the neighbor, I would personally feel like that I would rather go to 10 and 11, both being single-story, and then holding to the rest of everything. So adding the stipulation of lot 11 being single-story.
Okay. Commissioner Cavney?
I agree with that comment. Thank you.
Anything further? I guess I would say I don't agree. I think that with the adjacent orchard, it looks like there's maybe a row of 10 to 12 of those trees blocking essentially this area. But if the applicant is amenable to it and whatever the commission's pleasure is, I'm certainly not going to vote no against a case just for that. So with that, I'll entertain a motion. Anybody willing to make a motion? We'll do a separate motion on this one case, and then we'll do a collective motion, I think, for the remaining consent items. Would that work, Council?
That would work. And
Okay.
I would note that there are two agenda items.
Z1409, and yeah, sorry, I should have clarified that before.
Correct.
Okay, so for case Z1409 and S1404, do we have a recommended motion? Commissioner Cavney?
Okay. For the reasons set forth in the staff report, I move to recommend approval of, to the Town Council for Z14-09 as requested, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report and inclusive of a stipulation that Lot 11 be restricted to a single story.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Cavney, a second by Vice Chairman Adler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
Next one.
And Z, yes,
Okay,
Z1404.
next, so I make a motion that we approve S14-04, the preliminary plat for the Enclave Villa Bella, approximately 13 acres consisting of 20 single-family lots, lots 1 through 20, located at the northeast corner of Higley Road and Houston Avenue in the requested single-family residential SF10 zoning district with a planned area development PAD overlay subject to conditions.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Cavney, a second by Commissioner Peterson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And do I have a motion for the remaining consent items, which will be case UP 1403 and case Z14-12?
Move to approve the consent items as just mentioned by the chairman.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by motion by Commissioner Peterson, a second by Commissioner Cavney. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to our public hearing non-consent portion of the agenda. We have non-consent public hearing items will be heard at an individual public hearing and will be acted upon by the commission by a separate motion. During the public hearings, anyone wishing to comment in support of or in opposition to a public hearing item may do so. If you wish to comment on a public hearing item, you must fill out a public comment form indicating the item number on which you wish to be heard. Once the hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment unless requested by a member of the commission. With that, agenda item number 9, which is Z13-11, it's a request to amend the Town of Gilbert Land Development Code to discuss the behavioral health hospitals. And as a note, we have received indication and a request that this item be tabled until further notice so that a stakeholder group could be carried out and additional public meetings could occur, and stakeholder groups, including hospitals and residents who are interested in this particular item, have an opportunity to discuss and give input and provide feedback to address the town's needs. So with that, I'll open the public hearing. Ms. Lorber, is there any, or Lorbier, how do I pronounce your last name? Lorbier?
It's Lorbier.
Okay. Sorry about that. Is there anything further you'd like to add for the record?
No, Chair Whitman, you pretty much covered that we would like to involve the stakeholders and get more input.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Is there anybody here wishing to speak to this item? Nobody's left. Councilmember, anybody else want to speak on it? All right, with that, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the dais. Do I have discussion or a possible motion?
I move to table Z13-11.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Peterson, a second by Commissioner Cavney. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, moving on to administrative items. We're getting through this one pretty quickly. Agenda item number 10, which is the minutes. Consider approval of the minutes of the study session and regular meeting agenda of April 2nd, 2014. We may need Tony. Tony's not here anymore. Has anybody found anything in the minutes that needs correction?
Chairman, I only found that in a couple spots in the minutes, it looks like my comments are correct, but I was promoted to chairman. So if
You were?
I was.
Oh, that's so
if we could
nice.
change Chairman Peterson to Commissioner Peterson, that would be great. And I think Margot can just search for that. So
Okay,
other
perfect.
than that, the minutes looked good, and I would move to approve study session and regular minutes.
Awesome. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Peterson, a second by Vice Chairman Ayler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. With that, we'll move on to the communications section of our agenda. Agenda item number 11, which is report from chairman and members of the commission on current events. I actually don't have any current events. Vice Chair, I was going to call you Vice Chair. I was going to promote you again. I'm sorry. Sorry, Josh. Is there anything anybody would like to add? Okay. Agenda item number 12, which is our council liaison. Councilmember Daniels, you are up. We're moving fast and furious. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Enjoy your dinner with your families.
Yay! Thanks. So nothing further from Councilmember Daniels. And agenda item number 13, which is report from Planning Services Manager on current events.
Thank you, Commissioners. Just two items. One, there is an open house for the San Xavier University to review their exciting project in downtown Gilbert on Vaughan, and that will be May 20th, 5 p.m. And then the other item is the ADOT is having an open opportunity for the public to respond to and learn about the passenger rail that is proposed to connect Phoenix to Tucson as our population reaches 12 million. And the town council has supported the yellow route since the beginning of the alternative generation. They continue to support the yellow route. We encourage the public to check the website, which would search for passenger rail in Gilbert. Input is needed by May 31st. And there's very good bullet point reasons why the yellow alternative would be best for Gilbert in the East Valley. So we encourage the public to look at that. And if they need any input on that, they can certainly contact the planning department or our traffic engineering department. We'd be happy to explore some of their thoughts and concerns also.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we don't have anything further on the agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Thank you, everyone. And I think the staff wants us to leave our iPads. Is that correct? Okay, so if we can just leave those for them